What's good, party people? This is According to Woods, and I have the honor and privilege of talking to one of the most dedicated Jiu Jitsu practitioners that I know of. She is the like Alexa, the Belizean Lioness, and you wear Belize as proud on your sleeve as like Albert Morales.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Well, like my dad, I wanted to show my Belizean roots because everyone is all like nobody that I know that's big is showing about Belize. And I have Mexican roots too, but there's a lot of Mexican people that are showing and like, but I wanted to be different and show my Belizean roots so I can show people from Belize that anything is possible and that if you work hard, you can get to where you want to go.
I love it. I absolutely love it, and it's crazy. You mentioned your Mexican roots, and
Yes.
that is a culture known for boxers, primarily
Yeah.
strikers, right?
Yes.
So to have a half Belizean, half Mexican, by ethnicity, jujitsu
Yeah.
practitioner, that's pretty cool. You kind of follow in the lines of like the Martinez brothers, Gio and Boogie, and
Yeah.
like there's a nice little tie in there. But what I mean, honestly, if there's any, you could have done anything. Like I've been around you, I've had the honor to be around you and your family a
Yeah.
countless number of times. And your personality, you could have done anything, right? But
Yeah.
what was it about like combat sports that kind of drew you in?
I don't know. It just gives me like a rush. Like it's so fun. Like once I get on the mats, I forget about everything that's happening outside. I just focus on jujitsu. I think that's like not like an escape because I'm not saying that I like my life is like bad, but like I just feel like I don't know. It's a good feeling to have when I'm training or doing competitions and stuff.
So, how do you first like learn about jujitsu? Because I don't know, you might be a bit young, right? But you are a veteran in the sport. You're like a tenured young veteran. So, like,
Yeah.
how does jujitsu even enter your world?
Well, my dad started it, and like for a while, I was just like watching on the side, and it looked fun. So I asked him if I can try it. So I did, and I think like a couple weeks later, when I did a class, I started loving it. So I was like, "Sign me up! I need to keep on doing this."
Yeah, and it's crazy, right? Because when you look at different other sports where you have like two generations competing, right? Like you look at a football, you look at like a baseball, even sometimes basketball, right?
Yeah.
The whoever the senior member of whatever sport it is in the family, maybe they weren't the best player, right? Like Kobe Bryant's dad played, but not to the lengths of which
Mhm.
Kobe, essentially worked to, right? So,
Yeah.
and nothing against him, but that's it. But your dad is a world champion in his own right. So it's not even like he's like putting everything and the pressure on you. Like
Yeah.
he's a world champion himself, and then you look over and you're like, hey, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to win a world championship just like he did, and if not even more, like multiple.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like Megaton Diaz and Mackenzie Dern, right? Especially
Yeah.
in jujitsu, where it's a father daughter. Sometimes, especially
Yeah.
in the instances of the Gracies, there's a lot of males. It's kind of male dominated, but like a father daughter
Hmm.
combo, that's tremendous.
Yeah.
So, when do you start actually training yourself?
Like when did I start like actually like in
Yeah,
my
yeah, because you saw your dad and what he was doing, but when do you
yeah.
go like have the conversation with your parents? Like maybe it's my turn.
Yeah, I think it was like after like 2 weeks of training, I was like they were saying that there was a competition. So I asked if I can try it because I started loving the training and I just wanted to see how like going like live with other people that I've never like met before. Because in training, when you go like live with them, they know what you know, so it's kind of different to like sparring with them because you see them like all the time doing what like they can do, and then when you go to a competition, you don't know what they've been training, and they don't know what I've been training, so you can just like use your moves on them.
No, 100%. I love it. I love it, and it's almost a natural way of doing it, like that. Where you kind of fall into. You see that there's a competition going on, and then you kind of like everybody kind of play jiu-jitsu before they know it, right? Like
Yeah.
you wrestle with your friends and everything like that, but you start to kind of turn around and take it a little bit more seriously, and that's where you separate the top dog from the pack. I feel.
Yeah.
There's a question here. There's been other Blaxican and Afro Latino fighters on your show. Adam, has this young warrior been inspired by anybody that maybe would have looked like you on the mat?
Yeah. I like that question.
So, have you been? I mean, as you're looking right, across the mats in competition, in gyms, have you seen other, like combinations of like you and your dad, but in a different ilk, as you're training?
Actually, kind of my brother. My brother he just started training like 5 months ago, and he's already doing really good. I think what helped him was wrestling, and also I've always been helping him like in the garage, because we have like a little gym in our garage, so we like working on moves. And once he's gone to class, he's like passing everyone's guard when he barely just went there, and they've been there for I don't know, maybe 2 years.
Wow. Yeah, and being around you, being around your brother Axel, my goodness, like,
Yeah.
and it's funny, like, usually, I was actually just watching a Ric Flair documentary, right, of the pro wrestler Ric Flair, right, and he had 4 kids. Two of them ended up being wrestlers. One unfortunately passed away, but then the youngest daughter, she's Charlotte in the WWE, right, like a big star, right. But it's very rare that you have both kids training, and both were, both of them basically loving it. So what's the secret? Is it like your dad not pushing you, or like, because you guys, it kind of fits you both like a glove, and that's not even. And I feel like the way that you guys approach it, you and Axel, whether your dad was a jiu-jitsu world champion or not, you guys would have kind of figured it out anyway.
Yeah.
But it does help that he is a jiu-jitsu world champion.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's just something. Well, actually, he really loves it, and I love it. But I don't know. It's just like when we're on the mat, it's just like so fun, and maybe because like my dad, like there's some dads that like when you lose, they just like yell at you. They're like, "Why you could have done this?" And I think that's what makes the kid not want to do it anymore. But with my dad, when we lose, he just says, "It's okay. You'll do better next time, but let's work on the stuff that you could have done better, and so you can improve it on the next match." And I think that's what really helps, because it's like I'm learning, but then at the same time, I know that my dad is like comforting me, and like he supports me.
And it's wild too, because like, I mean, if there's highlight videos of you, my dog just started to like, oh, it's the rain, I'm gonna start barking now, so sorry about that. But I mean, in the vein of like how Hoist Gracie, right, they entered, the brothers entered him as the the first Gracie kind of representative in the first UFC, right, to show that anybody can do jiu-jitsu. And you guys are, I guess, perfect examples of that, because you're so sweet. Your dad is a gem of a person. Axel he could be a comedian, right? You guys are the most unassuming people, and you can wrap me up in a pretzel without even thinking about it, just like that. So, I mean, have you thought about that? Like, where this fire comes from?
I don't know. It's like it's weird. Like I think it's just like in me, you know? Like it just comes out once I'm on the mat. It's just a whole different person.
I think Lady Gaga said it best. Maybe I was born this way, right?
Exactly.
Heck yeah. Bonds of Mayhem Hour says, what's up? What's up, Bonds of Mayhem? And we actually have another episode of the podcast coming out. We're taking a look at the Great Muta, the Japanese wrestler, so check that out. But yeah, I mean, so in terms of like training, right? Because it was your first kind of, like seeing a competition and you're like, hey, maybe I'm doing this and whatever, right? So how long does it usually take you to train? Is it like a 6 week, like a fight camp do you go through? Or are you always ready? Like, or what does that look like for you?
Well, I'm always just training, and when there's a competition, I'm ready. It's not, you can kind of call it like mostly for wrestling. That's when I like prepare like 3 weeks before, just drilling and stuff like that. But for jiu-jitsu, I'm just always training, and when there's a competition, I'm ready to compete. Yeah.
That makes sense. Always ready. You stay ready so you don't have to get ready. That I've heard
Yeah.
that echoed in a lot of fighters and what have you. So
Yeah.
I've seen the posts on the socials. So yeah. Charles the Professor Wilson says, "Hello, people. Hello, Alexa."
Hello.
He's joining us up in Canada, where he's actually trying to get wheelchair boxing legalized in the provinces of Canada. So
Yeah.
another athlete, combat sports athlete. So I love it when the interaction is there.
Yeah.
Athletes from different sports just showing love. Thank you, Charles. And she's got the fight in her. Keep that fire burning, Lioness. Don't let anything put it out. It's all we have in this world.
Thank
And
you.
yes, and that's the thing, right? So many people, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying this is the only reason, but like depression happens when you don't have your purpose in life, right? You don't know what you're doing, you know. So the fact that you found a purpose for yourself that you absolutely love, like anybody that sees you on the mat, they're like, yeah, this is like you without jujitsu. It might be a little bit rougher, right? But it's
Yeah.
just like something that again fits like a glove. So do you ever sit back and like kind of realize like, man, so early on, like I found my calling, like, and how lucky you are to have it?
I always think about that. Like I was just like so blessed to like be able to have this opportunity to train, parents that support me, family that supports me, like in anything I do. They said even if I did something else, they would support me with anything cuz it's something that I love.
And that's a important advantage, right? That
Yeah.
win, lose, or because we see some parents like there's literally like shows about it, like toddlers in tiaras if it's like a beauty pageant, or Tuesday night tykes if it's football, like, or again the parent maybe not did the right things in their life, or just didn't have that fire, right?
Yeah.
And they push the kid to do it, and then it I don't want to put accusations, but it's definitely uncomfortable, right? So the fact that
It is.
you know that your parents are there and they're lovely. Your parents are absolutely lovely, and it's absolutely amazing to see your interactions with your parents and your brother Axel. But like you get the semblance that like win, lose, or draw.
Yeah.
You guys take it as a learning experience. You win. There's stuff that you can do. You lose. There's stuff that you can do better. So like
Yeah.
having that, that you're just doing it to fun, to kind of like almost like spar. Competitions are like spar.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, my dad says when we lose, it's like if you don't lose, you're not learning anything because you don't get to know like what you did wrong. So you win some, you lose some. You can't cry if you lose because there's always someone better than you to like challenge you.
No, that's it, you know. And if you're not being challenged, what good is the art?
Yeah.
What good is the competition, right?
Yeah.
Because that's kind of it. You know, you compete, you train to basically test yourself, right? Test
Yeah.
yourself, test your art, and it's wild, right? Because you know, we've seen some competitions where like you're the only one in your bracket and you're holding up your medals or your naga
Yeah.
belts and whatever, but you're the only one in the competition. But they, in their minds, they won the World Cup. Like that's the
Yeah.
best, right? But you know, what did they really learn, right? Well, you know, like
Yeah.
it's kind of hollow, right? Even though they won.
Yeah. It's just, yeah, what you were saying is right. Like, even though they won there, it's like, oh my god, it's a big thing, right? But yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Ibsan Arroyo wants to know how old are you, and
I
then
I'm
who taught
12.
you?
I'm 12, and my dad was the first one to teach me, and then we started going to like different gyms. And right now I'm at AOJ training with the Mendes Bros and Tynan Dalbra, and they are really nice and really good coaches.
That's absolutely brilliant, and you kind of answered that question. Did you have family in this line of work? And yeah, it's your
Yeah,
dad. He's a jiu-jitsu world champion. So yeah, that helps.
yeah, that helps.
That helps.
That
That's a
helps.
major catalyst.
Yeah,
And wise words from pops. Without challenge, you know, without a challenge, how do you know that you're actually the best at something, or that there is nothing to learn? We are taking notes. So thank you. But I don't always do it, but when I do it, it kind of goes. So, um, and that medal doesn't look as shiny if you've got no competition.
yeah, yeah. It doesn't really matter about the medal to me. It's more like my experience.
So, do you have a medal count? Like how many medals?
I think maybe 30 something. Maybe. I think. I think last time I counted and it was like 28 or something like that, but that was like last year. Or so I think I might have 30 something.
So you kept active during the lockdown, right? You know, it was nice that you and your family had the mini gym to go and train, right? So
Yeah.
you're in your bubble, you know, and you kept your skills sharp, which a lot of people, unfortunately, some did, some didn't, right? So,
Yeah.
and it showed, you know, whatever you put in, that's what you get back.
Yes.
So, I mean, being Belizean, being a Mexicana, right? Have you been to you know, I guess the motherland? Have you been to Belize? Have you been to Mexico?
I've been to both. I've been to Mexico I think like 5 times and Belize like 3. But Belize is just like an island. It's really pretty, nice water, nice like beaches. It's like then like there's like everyone is like barefoot and it's really fun because like you just get to see how other people live besides being on the phone or on the video game because all you see here everyone is on the phone on the iPad. They don't play outside, but all day in Belize we were just playing outside. The only time we'd go inside was if we were gonna eat or use the restroom or sleep, but besides that we were outside all day playing. Like there was nothing, there's no games to run out because they know so many games from being outside all the time. I learned new games actually to play outside.
Yeah, you know, and you know, with a different perspective, right? That gives you, you know, a world, a broader view of the world, right? You know, you have like the city and the cars and the electric cars and the
Yeah.
electronics everywhere, and to some extent, it's important, right? In terms of the society that you know is in, right?
Yeah.
But then you kind of switch gears, right? And you go to where, you know, it's a bit simpler. And not to say like simple. Like some of the most brilliant people come from these cultures where there's
Yeah.
not a lot of electronics, there's not a lot of media, there's not a lot of anything, because if they have a problem, nobody's going to come. There's not a repairman to come over or whatever,
Yeah.
like they have to figure it out. So they
Yeah.
think of things outside the box that'll work for the island rather than, like out in the city. Maybe it won't work in the city, but it definitely works there in the island, and they optimize their way of life.
Yes, it does.
Charles, the professor Wilson, says, my 10-year-old son is now training in sports. He wants to go into BJJ and MMA.
Oh, that's really good. I think he would love it, and he should try it before, because I feel like people always say, "No, it's too rough. It's too like I won't like it." But they haven't tried it. How would you know? It's just like trying new food. How would you know you won't like it if you haven't even tried it? You know?
No, I mean, and I know that's absolutely true with you because you've tried Zeta Zhang's cooking, which most
Oh
people don't
yeah.
do.
No. Yeah.
Um, so I mean, it's funny, right? Because you mentioned, like just trying it on, and the different jiu-jitsu teaches you things that maybe in other sports, just like think of all the social norms. Like I'm not gonna have anybody sweat on me. I'm not gonna have anybody on me, like their butt on
Yeah.
me. Like that's bad. Like that's never gonna happen. It happens every day, every camp, every training session, whatever, right?
It
But
does.
what I was able to learn, right, is and one of my first coaches, Matt Baker, up in Bakersfield, California, right?
Yeah.
He was like, it's to be, and I'm sure somebody else said it before him, but like he was like being comfortable in uncomfortable situations. All of
Yes.
those things that we just mentioned are uncomfortable things,
Yeah.
right? But your willingness to breathe through it, right, and
Yeah.
figure it out. Like it gives you when you're, for me, stuck in traffic or things that used to make me not the most fun person.
Yeah.
Well, I breathe through it just like when that 300-pound dude was trying to rip my arm from my shoulder. So
Yeah.
I say all that to say, what lesson? Sorry,
You're
what
fine.
lessons have you learned in jiu-jitsu?
Well, discipline. It's a lot of discipline, like hard work. Like if you want it, then you have to work for it. Because kids, they're always like, "Oh, I'm not winning," or like, "Oh, they're beating me up." But what were you doing on the mat? Messing around or laughing, not paying attention? While on the other hand, where there's other kids paid attention, putting in that work, the extra work, and they're winning championships just because of that little thing. Like there can be one thing that you can do differently, and that's gonna help you be better than anyone.
Yeah, I guess what the devil's in the details, right? In jiu-jitsu, in most combat sports, it's a game of it. It's a game of inches, even millimeters, right? Where
Yeah.
you literally like one thing, right? And the way that you're positioned, right? And again, position over submission, right? You might want to go in for the kill, but it's not right. You've seen people do the arm bars like from the top, and it's all weird and
Yeah.
grapeviney, and they end up on their butt, so to speak, right? In
Yeah.
the most literal sense, right? So like in that, it teaches you like different aspects, like just if you can get a little bit better every day, just like it doesn't have to be big, just so small, right? That you could become a champion. That's the difference between a challenger and a champion.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah. It's just this little work every day is gonna make you better. You will realize it until like you are getting better. You're gonna say, "Oh, that's a little bit of work. I can do that like any day." But no, it's like like a game. You have to play each day to get higher and higher in level. Because if you don't, you won't get to the high level that you want to get to.
So, in theory, you're saying that there's levels to this, right?
There is levels. There's gonna be a level where you just start. Of course, there's always a beginning. Then where you're like starting to get better, starting to understand like the moves, starting to practice the moves and like knowing what to do. And then there's like, I think the highest level is like knowing like my dad. He's good at jiu-jitsu because the weirdest thing that you wouldn't hear, but he like balances on ball. What he says he knows, he drills moves, of course, but he says it's all about how the body moves. If the body can move one way, then you should go the other way. Like, he just pictures like the body moving it instead of like the actual moves.
That makes absolute sense, and again, that's the championship mentality, and with that in your household, in your corner, that's why Ibsen Arroyo says that she will go on to be one of the best.
Thank
There you
you.
go. Yeah, you got to speak it into conviction and hashtag taking notes. So there you go.
Yeah.
So aside from jiu-jitsu, like, what are you doing outside of it? Because obviously it takes, a lot of you, right? And then also, you've got to do your studies and what have you. So like, when all of those things are done, like, what are you doing? Or is jiu-jitsu kind of just taking a hold of your life?
I like baking. I like baking a lot. I'm gonna start like decorating cakes. I've already done like a few cakes, but in a little bit, maybe next year, hopefully, I will start a little baking business to help me with raising money for my competitions and traveling. So right now I'm just practicing before I sell because I don't want it to be all bad and then I sell it and they're not gonna want to buy it again.
That makes sense, but I mean, even that, right? Like, you're becoming a bit of an entrepreneur, right? Because you see, and for those who don't know, right? Like, if you are in jiu-jitsu, there's, even if you're at a top level, like an elite level, the money is few and far between, and all of the competitions cost money. I think like a minimum one would be like $150, right? Just for
Oh
entry fee, $100, right?
yeah.
And then when you're thinking about training, like, it's about $300 to $500 a month, theoretically speaking, especially here in Southern California. So you start thinking about ways to offset those costs, right? And
Yeah.
but doing something that you love, right? Like, that's also cool too, right? You love baking, whatever. Maybe there's like, I don't know, like ghee cookies coming down the pipeline.
Yeah.
So, in terms of like what gets you in the zone, do you have like, and not giving too much away, but do you have like a song that you listen to, a movie that you watch, a YouTube inspirational, whatever, before you step out on the mats? Like, what does that look like?
There's a lot of people that listen to music like before going onto the mat or like they're just like hearing something. But what I do, my dad, he just talks to me saying, whatever happens, just try your best. So he's more like my inspirational speaker. He speaks to me while, like, before going in. And that makes me feel like more comfortable to go in or more ready because I already heard what I wanted to hear, that I can do good. But if I lose, it's fine. We'll just work on it.
And like, in terms of like the relationship, right, with your dad, because some people can't, especially the parent, right? They don't want to turn the coach off, right?
No.
But I mean, at least what I've seen is, you're both willingness to be, father daughter, and then coach and student. So, like, I mean, is he more coach? Is he more dad? What does that look like?
He always says that he's my dad first before the coach. So first he's gonna like come for me if I lose, and then after he's gonna show me the moves that I could have done or improve so I can do better on the next match. But yes, we try to keep like a father daughter, but at the same time a coach and a student. So yeah.
I mean, the mic. No, that makes sense, right? And the fact that he basically instills in you, hey, we're father daughter first. Now I can see like how the medals, even though they're awesome to have and everything like that, but how it doesn't matter, right? The task is more important than the eventual goal, which again, I myself am goal oriented. I have to do this and whatever. Like that's
Yeah.
the proverbial brass ring, that I have to grab and whatever. But then I put a lot of pressure on myself that is unneeded, and sometimes I can talk myself out of doing whatever because it's too much pressure.
Yeah.
That's a cool way that you and your dad have been able to like mitigate the pressure, like lessen the pressure, and
Yeah.
then Axel, your younger brother, is seeing this and was like, "Oh, they're having so much fun. Hey, let me take a crack at that."
Yeah. He really loves jiu-jitsu right now. It's like sometimes it's weird. He cries like if we don't take him. He really loves it
Wow.
that much. Yeah. I love jiu-jitsu, but I don't think I would ever cry. But like he's so like into jiu-jitsu right now. It's crazy how much he's into it.
So, you've learned a lot from your dad, right? Is there anything that you have been able to learn from your dad, and then basically, pass that information to Axel?
Well, just like techniques, and there's like this like pass that he does. It's cool. He just like steps over the legs, and like you just pass them really like fast. So sometimes I show Axel in the garage, and we're just drilling it so he can get better. But there's of course way more things that I could show him, and my dad has taught me a lot of things, like of course discipline and of course moves, because that's how you do jiu-jitsu. But then also yeah, but then also yeah, just like hard work, and if you really want it, work hard for it, because if you don't, it's not just going to be handed to you. Everyone's working hard for what they want, but you just have to work harder if you want it more than them.
I think absolutely that is so wise. That is so wise. You're so wise beyond your years. You don't even know it. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm an adult and I cry when I don't go to attorney. See, it's not just Axel.
No, I think it's just that rush that it gives you, like if you can't train or do what you love. I think it's even if it's another sport. I think every sport has the adrenaline rush if you love it. So it's like you want to be doing it every day.
Yeah, no, 100%. So, I mean, what? How long has it been every day for you? Like, how long have you been training and competing? Like, how long has your career been thus far?
I think about 5 years. Yeah, I started training when I was 7. And then I think just like a month after, that's when I started competing, trying my first tournament.
What does it do to your confidence, right? Like, you know, obviously competing. Like, I've never competed. I'm still like a no stripe white belt. Like, that just happens. Just inconsistency of training, right? But like, I get nervous, right?
Yeah, I think we all get nervous. It's like no one's gonna go in there like they might act like they're gonna like they're all confident, but in the inside everyone's nervous because I don't know what it is, but it's just like you're nervous before going into a match. But for me, it's like after my first match, I feel less nervous because I already went through like the process or like the the match, so I feel more better to move on and continue. doing my matches.
That makes sense. So, I mean, obviously, 5 years in, right? And there's no sign of stopping.
No.
Do you have a goal for yourself, like 5 years from now, or you take it competition by competition? Like, how do you stay motivated?
Hopefully, 5 years from now, I want to try doing the ADCC trials to get into the ADCC. Being a world champ, even if it's like at blue belt or purple. I also want to, aside from jujitsu, I also want to at least have my little business that I might put out going, selling. And for wrestling, I want to at least be a Reno world champion, a state champion again, and other places that for first, because I will be working hard, and in 5 years I will be really good.
I think that's amazing that it's not just jujitsu. You've got this business that you're thinking about. We forgot that, like, you're a wrestler. Like, how did you start jujitsu before wrestling, or
Yes, I started jiu-jitsu before wrestling. I think I started wrestling 2 years ago. I just started 2 years ago training, and then I did my first competition with just boys because there wasn't a lot of girls when I first started. So I would always have to compete with boys, and then sometimes there would be like one or two girls in that bracket. And then, like, just this year, that's when I started just competing against girls only.
how has that been? Have you seen, like, things from jujitsu that has helped you in wrestling, or and vice versa? Like,
I think for the most part, it's wrestling that helped my jiu-jitsu more because with the takedowns and just knowing how to like drive, like to take them down, different throws that you can do because actually it's kind of easier in jiu-jitsu because you can grab grips and then you can actually do the throw that you learn in wrestling and it's going to be way more like efficient or like better. And then for wrestling, I think jiu-jitsu helped my wrestling kind of with like the turning part, like if you want to pin them because like you learn how to grab them and then just flip them over. But I think for the most part it's wrestling that helped my jiu-jitsu.
I like it, and it's funny because, like, most people that don't know, they think, oh, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, catch wrestling, like, they might be similar, but in ways they are similar, but they're completely different sports.
They are.
So I guess, I mean, as somebody that has done so much, I guess what I guess parable of life, right? What life lessons has, like, doing everything that you're doing and doing well, like, what have you learned about yourself? Like, what has jujitsu taught you? What has wrestling taught you? In terms of how you move around in your everyday life.
Well, I think for the most part, I know I keep on saying this, but it's all about hard work. It's taught me just to work hard. Because look at all these opportunities I've been getting just because I've been working hard all these years. I've been a two-time state champ. I'm on this show with you. I've been on Belize News. I've competed in Reno, Colorado. I've competed in Fresno. I've competed in a bunch of places like San Diego and stuff like that. But of course, it's always about the experience and not the medals.
That makes sense. Loving, beginning to love the process rather than the outcome. I think that
Yes.
is right. Yeah, and champ stuff only, 100%. And wrestling is king, 100%. It's a base for everything. I think it's fun when you're thinking about, like, MMA, right?
Yes.
You can take a really good wrestler and teach them striking, right? You know, but you can't take. I mean, it doesn't necessarily work well if you take a striker, like a world champion boxer, right, and then try to teach them grappling. Like if you have
Yeah.
wrestling as your foundation or jujitsu as your foundation, it's a
Then
yeah, it's a lot easier to transition,
yeah,
theoretically speaking, than a
it is.
striker, where it's stuff that you're not on your back at all, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's just like a different rule set, right? If you do
It
a catch
is.
wrestling tournament versus a jiu-jitsu tournament,
Yeah.
and what have you. Which,
Yeah.
going back to jiu-jitsu, like, do you have a particular style that you dig? Are you mostly gi, no gi? And for those who don't know, gi is the
With
traditional
the
uniform that you would
yeah.
see like the Gracies and such wear, but and the no gi is kind of like you're going surfing, you're rash guarded up,
Yeah.
right? But do you have a preference, one or the other?
I think I like gi because I get more control with the grips. Nogi is fun because Nogi is more like wrestling to me, but I can't really get as much submissions as I like in the gi because I can do a choke with the lapel. I can do a throws and stuff with the gi because it's a little harder with the Nogi because your arms just slip or they won't let you because you can't grab them. You can only like grab grips, but from with nogi, I think the only things that you can grab is wrists and then like ankles and like arms. But the gi, you just grab on wherever because it's just the gi. You just grab on and hold on for your life.
Yeah, I was about to ask because I actually maybe not the fan of the gi, but that's usually because I'm the one getting choked at with my collar, which is demoralizing.
Yeah, it's not fun.
Right. So I mean, the fact that you're like, oh no, I do that to people. No wonder it's fun to you. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. So again, as we look into like 2023, right? The last couple of years have been crazy, right? Maybe not as many competitions and what have you. Just life was different, right? So, do you have any goals, like immediate goals in going into 2023?
Um, I think the next Reno Worlds for wrestling, I want to get first because last year I could have got third, but I did this one mistake that I've been working on with my coaches, and then they saw it, and I saw it too after the whole competition. So I've been working on that, and I want to get first this time, hopefully. And in Colorado, if they have another one, I want to get first in that because last year I got fifth. It's still good because I'm still like nationally ranked, but I would have hoped to get first. Another goal I think is maybe just doing more competitions because last year I did well. This year technically, I didn't really get to compete as much because still things are still like closed down or like they're still being careful about it. But I think they're starting to open up more, so hopefully I can compete more.
Yeah, that makes sense. Everybody, I think, is trying to figure out how to move about, in the most literal and figurative senses that there are. How to move in this new world. Like a lot has changed for better and for worse. When like before March 2020, March 2020 was a completely different time, and then like
Yeah.
everything after has been completely different as well.
Yeah.
What is your favorite thing to bake?
I like to bake banana bread
Ooh,
because for the most part, I think I started baking was because for my brother and my dad, and my dad's favorite like cake was banana bread or like a pineapple upside down cake.
ooh, I love pineapple. My dad, funny enough, used to make pineapple upside down cake as well. So
Yeah,
that's
next time I'll
tremendous.
make you one.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, yes. Heck yeah, I'm in. I'm in. And have you thought about business names? Have you thought about what business name that your baking brand will be?
I actually already made my logo.
Ooh.
So it's kind of, I'm gonna tell you guys just a little bit of it. It's called Little Chef because I'm
Okay.
little and I'm a chef.
Ah,
And it's like my fighting, like my fighting logo with my rash guard and everything.
right.
So I just have that with an apron and a hat, a baking hat.
Mm. I like how you basically kind of stepped away, not completely stepped away because you're using your rash guard, your fight logo for
Yeah.
it, but like I was thinking you were gonna say like Belizean Lioness baking, and the
Yeah.
perfect timing. But you want to be, you're baking, and your combat sports, which is awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%. Adam's face lit up when you mentioned that pineapple upside down cake. No,
I
that's
think everyone does.
see, and I want to be you when I grow up, Alexa, and I think that's me as well. So
Yeah.
there you go. Man, I think we've covered a lot of ground here. Wait, do you have a favorite like song, jujitsu or not?
I have this favorite singer. He's a Mexican singer.
Okay,
His name is Romeo Santos. I don't know if you heard of him.
yeah,
He's
I
in
know.
bachata. Yeah.
Right.
I
I
listen
like-
to him every day, all day.
Really? Okay. Have you
Yeah.
actually danced bachata?
Yes, my mom teaches me. My mom and my uncle, they both know how to dance. So sometimes they just dance and I just see like, and then I practice with my mom sometimes.
That's brilliant. I mean, and that, oh my gosh, like dancing to bachata music, like that. No wonder you've got probably leg strengths in your body locks because, like, it's very stompy.
It is, yeah.
And Romeo is actually Dominican,
Oh
Dominicano.
really? Oh wow.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. That's look at this, look at this. Like we're getting knowledge dropped on the chat. Like
Yeah.
so. For those who don't know and don't already follow you, like what's the best place to follow everything that you're doing?
Um, just I mean, follow your like dreams or stuff like that. Like if you really,
Or your socials? You got
or
those?
that,
Yeah,
or
that
that,
too.
that
Yeah.
too.
So you're Alexa Belizean Lioness on Instagram, yes?
Yes, Alexa. Yes.
Absolutely. And I just might have linked it right in the bio here. So if everybody wants to follow Alexa, and I know
Go
you will,
follow me. You
100%.
see awesome things.
Yes, 100%. Good vibes only, 100%. Well, Alexa, I mean, I think might be the last according to Woods for the year, and I couldn't have thought of a better guest than having you on. So, like, I thank you so much. We've been trying actually for like 2 years to get this
We
done.
have, yeah.
Finally got it done. But thank you guys for making my year amazing, Alexa's year amazing. And if you haven't already done so, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe to the According to Woods podcast on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and also on bodyslam.net. I mean, Alexa, you're subscribed to the podcast, aren't you?
Of course, always.
100%. And I thank you for it. You guys are amazing. Have a great year, great rest of the year. Hope your holidays are swell. And don't believe me or Alexa and subscribe to the podcast. Here's our mutual friend, Zeta Zhang, to help convince you.
Hey, this is Zeta Zhang. Make sure you subscribe to According to Woods